Good morning, Winthrop Vikings.
Today is February 16th, a day 4 schedule.
We would like to congratulate Butch Martini and Chris Palmer on their 200 career win as the girls hockey coaches. This is a huge accomplishment for our program, and they only have many more wins to come.
We would also like to remind students interested in Viking Longship class to email Mr. Tarantino to set up for an interview for the class.
Since this month is Black History Month, we wanted to dedicate this Wake Up Winthrop to the history and importance of commemorating this important month.
To start off, we have Wake Up Winthrop's Brooke talking about the history of this month and why we celebrate it.
Hi, I'm Brooke Danucci at Wake Up Winthrop, and today we wanted to take a look into what Black History Month is and why we celebrate it all month long and how it began. Black History Month is an annual celebration of achievements by African Americans and a time for recognizing their main role in U.S. history. Since 1976, every United States president has consistently recognized this important celebration in February every year for us to celebrate. The story of Black History Month goes back in time to 1915, right after the 13th Amendment. That September, the Harvard-trained historian Carter G. Woodson and well-known minister Jesse E. Moreland founded the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History, to where it's an organization dedicated to researching and promoting achievements by Black Americans and other peoples of African descent. As decades progressed, President General Ford made it known to be recognized back in 1976. Black History Month is a celebration we celebrate all month long for African Americans who have made a difference, such as Martin Luther King Jr., Harriet Tubman, Rosa Parks, and more. We caught up with Mr. Leonardo to get more of an insight on what Black History Month is and why we celebrate all month long.
All right, so Black History Month, it's been around for a while. It actually started in the 1920s with the idea of a week-long time in February. The idea was from a Black historian about kind of, here's a week where schools across the country are going to emphasize Black history and the importance of Black Americans contributing to American society. It morphed into a month informally, and then it's formally recognized in the mid-1970s, kind of after the civil rights movement in the mid-60s into the early 70s. So it's been a formal, recognized, month-long celebration since the mid-1970s. It's been a while. Why February is always the question I get asked sometimes in class, and that's because it coincides with Abraham Lincoln's birthday and Frederick Douglass's birthday, who's a famous abolitionist and author during the mid-1800s. And obviously we know Abraham Lincoln gets a lot of credit for not just maintaining the Union, but also emancipating and starting the process of abolishing slavery. Well, first off, why do we celebrate it? I think it's because I've yet to been able to think of, a group of people as large as something like 13-14% of the population that have had such a tremendous impact on American culture. There's kind of an old adage, something like, there's no American history, there's no American culture without Black American culture, and there's a lot of truth to that. Speaking from a musician standpoint, virtually every foundational element of modern pop music in America historically has been built on Black American roots, dating all the way back to you American history nerds to, spirituals being sung that morphed into really pivotal music like gospel, blues, which would, lead Paul McCartney to pick up a bass and John Lennon to pick up a guitar all the way over in England. And that's really important. And something that I think is under-discussed, the cultural impact. We typically ignore that a lot of times in U.S. history, mostly because there's just too much to talk about. So we talk a lot about political rights, but really, for me, every morning when I wake up, 99% of the music I'm listening to on my drive to Winthrop High School is either by a Black artist, American artist, or heavily influenced by Black American music. So that's really special to me personally. And I think that's something President Obama once said, is to try to avoid getting stuck in playing the hits like March on Washington, Lincoln emancipated the slaves, Jackie Robinson, sports heroes, and those are all important, but I think what something gets lost is like those real deep ties to our culture. And that's what I'm celebrating this month, and I hope you guys will do that with me.
Thank you, Mr. Leonardo. That is all for this story. We hope you learned a little bit more of what Black History Month is and why we celebrate it all month long. Now back to you guys in the studio.
Thank you, Brooke and Mr. Leonardo, for that information.
You know, there are some lesser-known figures in the civil rights movement that don't get enough credit that they deserve because they aren't talked about enough as much as the other important civil rights leaders.
That's why we have Ellie to tell us some more information about important civil rights activists that you may not have heard about.
Hi, I'm Ellie with Wake Up Winthrop, and today we're going to be taking a look into 5 lesser-known Black historical figures who have made a huge impact in our world today and are typically overlooked when we celebrate Black History Month. We usually tend to celebrate the same cast of historical figures when there are so many others that deserve some credit. Here's myself, Brooke, and Rizzo to help us learn more about it. We all know about the great Rosa Parks who stood up for her rights and didn't give up her seat on the bus, and the famous Martin Luther King who led the civil rights movement. But a lot of you don't know about Ella Baker. Ella Baker was an American civil rights activist who organized protests and campaigns. She was the co-founder of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference and an inspiring force behind the creation of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. With her guidance and encouragement, the Southern Christian Leadership Conference became one of the foremost advocates for human rights in the country. Ella Baker continued to be a respectful and influential leader in the fight for human rights and civil rights until she died in 1986.
Before Serena Williams or Simone Biles, there was Lisa Coachman. In 1948, she became the first Black woman for any country to win an Olympic gold medal. Originally from Albany, Georgia, Coachman made her name as an Olympic track star, where she specialized in the high jump. She won the gold medal in the 1948 London Olympics. Growing up in the segregated South, she overcame discrimination and unequal access to inspire generations for other Black athletes to reach for their athletic goals. Her accomplishments opened up a whole new world for not only African American women, but African Americans aspiring to be athletes in general.
Next, let's learn about Bessie Coleman. Bessie Coleman became the first African American woman to earn a pilot's license, as well as the first African American aviator to hold an international pilot's license. On September 3, 1922, she made the first public flight by a Black woman in the U.S. in a plane she borrowed. Before her death at 34, she was saving money to open a flight school to teach her other Black women to fly. Bessie Coleman's life and work inspired generations of astronauts and pilots. Dr. Mae Jemison, the first African American woman in space, carried Bessie Coleman's picture with her on her first mission in 1992.
While Thomas Edison is rightfully famed for the invention of the light bulb, its real potential was realized by an African American man named Lewis Latimer. Latimer was the son of a self-liberated individuals who had settled in Chelsea, Massachusetts. After serving in the U.S. Navy during the Civil War, Latimer got a job as an office boy in a patent office. Because of his ability to draw, he became a draftsman, eventually getting promoted to be the head of the draftsmen. Although he has a large number of inventions to his name, including a safety elevator, perhaps his greatest achievement is his work on the electric light bulb. Thanks to Latimer, light bulbs become cheaper and more efficient, which made it possible for them to be installed into homes and on the streets. Latimer was the only Black American on Edison's elite team of the inventors.
Edward Boucher rose to academic heights that were unimaginable for his era. Boucher was the son of a formerly enslaved man who had moved to New Haven, Connecticut. Only 3 schools there accepted Black students at the time, so Boucher's educational opportunities were limited. However, he managed to get admitted to Yale and became the first African American to earn a PhD and the 6th American of any race to earn one in physics. Although segregation prevented him from attaining the kind of position he should have been able to get with his outstanding credentials, he taught for 26 years at the Institute of Colored Youth, serving as an inspiration to generations of young Black people. Each one of those historical figures and many more have changed our world forever, inspiring and encouraging generations of people to reach their goals. Now back to you guys in the studio.
Thank you, Ellie, for the information. There were thousands upon thousands that made a difference in the civil rights movement, and it was great to hear about the few that we may have not even have known about.
Sports were and continue to be a huge part of the fight for equality. It was an outlet for African American talent and athletes such as Jackie Robinson, Muhammad Ali, and Jesse Owens to showcase their abilities.
That's why we have Robert to give us information on what organizations are doing this Black History Month to continue to promote and educate Black history.
Robert with Wake Up Winthrop. And this week we will be talking about what sports organizations are doing to honor and celebrate Black History Month this year. Sports have played a big role and continue to shape the African American civil rights movement. Players like baseball player Jackie Robinson, who was the league's first African American player, opened up new doors for the Black community. His accomplishments and the accomplishments of many others, including Serena Williams, who is an African-American tennis player who revolutionized women's tennis with her powerful style of playing and who has won 23 Grand Slam singles titles, and Muhammad Ali, who is an African-American boxer who is considered the best of all time. He was a 3-time heavyweight champion and won a gold medal. Although a remarkable athlete, his impact on the people around him has made him a major figure in history. Muhammad Ali promoted peace as a goodwill ambassador and United Nations messenger of peace. Through his life, Ali used his fame to advocate for peace and to make sure everyone felt heard. Now that opportunities have opened up, they want to make sure that they do not go away, and current and future generations will be able to play and strive for years to come. First is the NHL. The National Hockey League is a league that has been predominantly white, with Willie O'Ree, the first African-American hockey player who was breaking the barrier in 1957. After that, the league has done many things to try and have way more diversity throughout the league, and even today still only has a player rate of 3% African American. To help combat this, the NHL is trying to make hockey equipment more accessible and less expensive worldwide in hopes of growing the game and making everyone have an equal opportunity to play at the highest level. Next is the Premier Lacrosse League. The league has just released a podcast episode with some of the African American players talking about all of their experience growing up and becoming the best of the best. Some of the main things being that most kids have never played the sport before because it was never an option growing up. Now that they are playing with the best players in the world, their main goal is just to be a good role model and influence kids growing up, showing them that they can play any sport that they want. The National Football League has a program solely for partnerships where they work with HBCUs and try and find them internships inside the league as well as other things like scholarships to help them get through college debt-free. They also have promised over $250 million through 2027 for racial and social injustice. The final thing that they want to be known is that they want more inclusion. Specifically quoted, representation matters, and there's not enough at head coach in the National Football League. Lastly is the National Basketball League, which has dedicated this whole month to Black history. The NBA has had a lot of influence on Black history in sports, with the first Black basketball player being Earl Francis Lloyd, who was an All-American at West Virginia State, where he led the Yellow Jackets to a 30-0 record in 1947 and 1948, where he became the first African-American player on October 31st, 1950. There were so many influential players such as Michael Jordan with his impeccable track record for winning championships that carries his legacy over the top. There was also players like Kobe Bryant, who was one of the best players to ever walk this earth, with his incredible dedication and leadership to his team, who has inspired many youth basketball players to play their best and accomplish their biggest dreams. That's all I have. There are many other organizations, but we were not able to cover them all. Now back to you guys in the studio.
For the info, Robert, and make sure to continue to research, educate, and discuss the various aspects of Black History Month and celebrate this month because Black history is American history.
That's all we have for you today, folks. And remember,
Roll bikes.